The executive team steps off the retreat stage and announces a massive new growth target. They have a bold vision for cultural transformation. But within a few months, the organization fractures. Deadlines slip, processes break down, and your highest performing employees start quietly handing in their resignations. This animation illustrates exactly why that fracture happens. The top line represents the organization's horizon, the visionary goals and executive ambition. The bottom foundation is the runway, the actual on-the-ground capacity to execute. When leaders push the horizon up without reinforcing the runway below it, the structure collapses under its own weight. Dr. Nathan Iverson, an industrial organizational psychologist, spent a decade studying how to prevent this collapse. He embedded himself inside a university that scaled its residential enrollment by 1,500% over 30 years, and they did it while keeping their culture intact. To survive that rapid scaling, human resources must move beyond acting as a policy enforcer. Instead, HR leaders take on the role of chief engineers of the runway, building the infrastructure required to bear the executive vision. Iverson distilled those decades of observation into a book called Prepared for This. It serves as an evidence-based manual for leaders trying to navigate complex, growing institutions. The demand for these structural insights is high. Look at this call for speakers for the Riverside County HR Summit. They are searching for professionals to present strategic sessions to improve performance. Organizations know they are stuck and are searching for a way out. Resolving that tension between the horizon and the runway requires HR to master 3 specific, counterintuitive shifts in how they manage their internal infrastructure. The first shift is managing change capacity. Visionary leaders often suffer from a specific urgency. They launch multiple parallel initiatives at exactly the same time. The result is institutional whiplash that overloads the staff. This diagram illustrates the antidote, a discipline called sequencing. Sequencing forces order onto ambition. It requires mapping out exactly which foundational elements must be built and stabilized first, before the next phase of the vision can begin. By acting as the gatekeeper of change capacity, HR can look at these thresholds and force the executive team to measure the human toll of execution. You calculate how much the system can actually absorb, relieving the bottlenecks before announcing the next pivot. It comes down to asking one consistent question in every strategic meeting. What must we build next in order to do what we want to do after that? Enforcing a strict sequence of operations protects the organization's internal trust and shields the workforce from the fatigue of constant, overlapping pivots. The second shift forces a rethink of talent economics. When a department is strained and deadlines are slipping, the standard organizational reflex is to simply add more average headcount to spread the work around. Adding people often triggers a management tax. Every new hire increases the complexity of communication, requires more supervision, and introduces new friction into the workflow. You increase your payroll, but your actual output barely moves. This bar chart breaks down the book's alternative, the 4 versus 5 math. The data shows that 4 high-performing employees, paid 20% above market rate, will consistently outproduce 5 average employees earning standard pay. Top talent acts as a force multiplier. They naturally reduce friction and anticipate roadblocks. Their speed and clarity ripple outward, elevating the baseline for the entire team. Restructuring compensation to favor these force multipliers represents a highly efficient strategic investment in scaling capacity. The founder's trap creates severe organizational vulnerability. When a company's culture and decision-making rely entirely on the presence of one visionary leader, the system stalls the moment they step away. Effective succession planning requires the daily HR practice of building internal bench strength. This pipeline strategy requires distributing real authority across 3 distinct tiers of emerging leaders. You give them ownership and the guardrails to fail safely, long before a formal transition is ever needed. By systematically embedding the mission across multiple layers of staff, HR guarantees that the institution's culture will survive past any single executive's departure. When you apply these shifts, the horizon and the runway stay in perfect balance. Retention remains fierce, internal trust stays high, and the institution develops the resilience to absorb market shocks without cracking. Success in this model means building systems that make any single individual increasingly less necessary. Prepared for This provides the blueprint to make that transition. It serves as a guide for HR professionals ready to move from reactive crisis management toward a focused talent strategy. Grab the book. Step into the role of an architect of the runway. It is time to build an institution that doesn't just